Hey everyone, Tony D, sitting in the front room with the sun beaming in on me, little Jones on the floor in the sunbeam, her favorite thing to do. And I'm here with another hot take. This one is, I guess you'd call it on the deep state. Um, a lot of people, when you mention the deep state, they're like, "Oh man, really? You're gonna put on a tinfoil hat and talk about that?" It's a real thing, and the idea is that there is a government behind the government, and they kind of manipulate things. Now they're not all powerful, really. We kind of don't know how powerful they are. I guess they haven't really tested the limits, but just like any human organization, they're slowly ramping it up. They're slowly press their limits. I think the current limit is Trump. Like Trump has, it's not so much he hates the deep state or is going after the CIA. It's just that he's kind of drawing a line and saying, "Whoa, whoa, what are you guys doing? Maybe this is a little too much." And an interesting article that I just read was about a right-wing lobbyist who seems to be a bit of a nut job. Anyhow, he was trying to smear Mueller during the Mueller investigation. And the way he was going about it was he was apparently trying to contact women who had been with Mueller or knew Mueller and was trying to get them to roll over on Mueller and Me Too him, basically. And I vaguely remember a mention of that during the height of the whole Russiagate Mueller stuff. So there was this FBI agent who accessed his email via his wife. And his wife had apparently worked for this guy, had access to his email account for some reason. So he accessed it in order to get information on the lobbyist and discredit him. And then he went to, he apparently tried to pass it off to some reporters who weren't interested. And then when that didn't work, he went to the FBI. Now the caveat is his wife apparently was owed money by this guy. So there were more things going on than just political. But I think it gives you a glimpse into how, it's not the deep state cabal. It's just a group of people who have power and use it because they can, right? So your wife gets screwed over by somebody who works somewhere. You're in the FBI, you've got a little power, so you use it to try to get the money back or screw over that guy. I mean, there's nothing conspiratorial about that. That's just human nature. I'm not condoning the behavior. I think it's stupid for the guy to do it. He really needed to take a step back and just go, well, we either gotta, go through the proper channels and sue the guy or whatever, or just write it off and say, well, we're not gonna get that money. But instead, I think people in Washington have been so caught up in the power games that they think it's fine to do. And I think a lot of times they do it and get away with it, right? It's kind of similar to being a cop on a smaller scale. So if there's a cop, and I think I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. It's a great story. So my friend's brother-in-law was a detective, and he told us this story where, and he was like one of the shadiest guys I think I ever met. A lot of cops, to me, strike me as being very shady. But anyhow, he was particularly shady, and he bragged to us at a party, I believe, or maybe it was my friend bragging. I don't remember. But the story goes that he got a call from some rando who was at a Chinese food restaurant. He was eating his Chinese food, and he said, the owner left. He asked me to watch the store, but I have to leave. He's been gone for like an hour. Can you please come watch the store? So my friend's brother-in-law goes to the store, and he tells the guy, go ahead, you can leave. Guy leaves, and he's watching the Chinese restaurant. He puts a close sign on, goes into the back, helps himself to the food. Gets a bunch of like frozen chicken and General Tso's chicken, like a bunch of frozen stuff, and like fills his trunk up with it, right? Basically robs the guy. So eventually the owner comes back. Oh, thank you. Thank you for watching my place. I got caught up in things. Guy gives him a bunch of food as a reward. So the guy robs him, and then the guy rewards him for robbing him. The detective goes back, gets a call. Here, the Chinese food owner went home, got into a fight with his wife, and beat her. He had to go back to the Chinese restaurant and arrest him. So this is the kind of casual stuff that I think goes on in law enforcement and FBI. Not every single person does that, obviously. Obviously, if it was every single person, we'd be in a lot worse shape. But enough of these individuals eventually slip and start using their power. And I think it starts small, and it just snowballs from there. It's like when cops get you out of tickets. If you have a friend who's a cop, he gives you what's known as a PBA card, gets you out of a ticket. I had a friend who had a badge, like a family badge. That basically got him out of everything except about murder. We were going on a road trip. He put that on the dash. He said, "Don't stop." And he said, "We won't even slow down. I will just wave that badge." And so it's that kind of thing, that mentality higher up, with the FBI. So if you're in the FBI, why wouldn't you, run a check on your daughter's boyfriend? Or, I don't know, break into an ex-girlfriend's email to see how she's doing, or a current girlfriend. I knew a guy who used to run, he was a cop, and he would run checks on his friends. He'd run checks on his girlfriends. He shouldn't have done that. It's really illegal now in the state of New Jersey, but back then, I don't know if it was illegal. It was probably unethical. Now you actually would get fired, I think. But my point is still the same. It's like people who have power, they tend to abuse it, which is why, as a libertarian, we fight for giving these guys less access to that, because you can see how casually they will abuse it. I mean, Edward Snowden talked about, there were guys at the NSA doing all kinds of things to people they knew, girlfriends and wives, checking up on them, and they could really check on you. They can get in your computer and see what the hell you're doing, like nonstop. They could watch your screen live, I know people have been through nasty divorces, would have loved to have done that. When you're getting a divorce, and I know from personal experience, your mental faculties, you're capable of pretty much anything at that point, because it's emotional, it's not logical. I had a friend who, he was dating a married woman for a long time, and they were having sex constantly. She had 2 kids with another man, married this guy. So this guy's like flipping the bill for her, married to her, and she's cheating on him, and he's tolerating it, I guess, but he didn't know, about my friend. And I kept saying to him, man, you are doing something really bad, because that guy could snap and kill you, literally kill you. That's what happens. You see this on these forensic files shows or whatever kinds of shows. You see guys who just snap. They kill people, they kill themselves, and they have nothing to live for. When you invest all your emotion and time in a relationship, and it just ends, and you had no idea, you thought your world was one way, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you, and you realize, oh no, your world's not that way at all. Some people cannot cope with that. Now, some people can. I coped with it, but there are people I know who, when they got divorced, it was tough. It was tough for them to pick up the pieces and move on. So, and that's what being human is. Not every human being can process everything, which is why we don't give these guys that power, which is why we have to put limits on it. But it's also natural that when these guys have been doing that for so long, that you finally go, hey, you can't do this. the natural tendency is, oh, yes, I can. And we're going to stop you from putting these limits on. And they fight you. Whether it's a legal battle, going to Congress and saying, no, we need all this money and power and prestige, or whether it's a PR battle going on TV shows, which a lot of ex-CIA guys are. They're constantly on TV. And for all we know, they're still getting paid, or they still have vested interest in the agency in some way. Because the CIA has done things that are so crazy and off the books in order to hide things, or at least under the rubric of hiding things, because they know that because we're a more open society, that public information, you could surmise things. So foreign governments who are spying on us, and they all spy on us because we're the most powerful nation on earth, and it would be stupid for them not to spy on us, but they could take, say, the budget of the CIA, the public budget, and go through it line by line and surmise certain things from that budget. So that's why the CIA also puts stuff off the books, because then, we don't know everything. See, if we had everything open and on the books, at least from the CIA's perspective, then these guys could go through that budget and eventually figure out, this is their limits. This is how many people they have. Not that it would necessarily give away everything. But the other side of that is, look at all the abuse. Look at all the abuse we had. Look at the 80s with, the CIA moving cocaine and crack in order to fund certain things. That was a terrible thing with a terrible side effect. And you could Google that. I mean, it's well-known stuff. It's not a conspiracy theory. Talking facts here. So when people talk about the deep state, and I'm not suggesting that Trump is some messiah that's going to fight the deep state to the bitter end. In fact, I think he's probably like, his strategy has always been to kind of like poke the bear, see what happens, and then reevaluate from there. So I'm not sure if it'll behoove him to even do anything once he has all the levers of power at his disposal. I don't know if he has the wherewithal to look to the future and say, well, I'm not going to be president, it's going to be some Democrat. Let me make sure that they're not going to have this kind of insane power. To some extent, I think there's evidence to suggest that maybe he is more libertarian in that way, because when he first got into office, he kind of handed back the drone strike program to the Pentagon. Now, I think part of that was he didn't want to be responsible for it. He didn't want to take the bad press for like murdering people with flying robots. And also, too, by dropping it on the Pentagon and the CIA, there's like, he doesn't know. He's got way more plausible deniability, as opposed to Obama, who actually signed the orders. Not that it mattered, because everybody thought, well, whatever he does must be good. So I guess what I'm saying here is we should be extremely wary of anyone who supports the deep state. And it used to be that the left side of politics was very wary of it. I mean, back in the Nixon days, they were, someone on the left side of politics, even a Democrat, would have laughed at you if you said the CIA was a good thing. Now it's the polar opposite. You have left-leaning Democrats praising the CIA and how wonderful they are. And that's very telling, because I think behind the scenes, they are working against Trump, because they have, in this current incarnation of politics, and keep in mind, the CIA will just, and any group, if they're flexible enough, they'll just switch sides. That's not the point. The point is power. The point is not a side. So I think currently they have so much vested in the Democrats. They have a lot of ties to the Democrats. I think the Clintons are probably tied into the deep state in a big way. I mean, mainly because they're very vulnerable. They have a lot of scandal that I'm sure the guys in the deep state already know. Like those guys, if anybody has the proof of all their various nefarious dealings, it's the guys in the CIA. Who knows? They might have even committed some of the murders that the Clintons are accused of. All right. I got to wrap this ramble up. The dog is sniffing around looking for a place to maybe pee. So that's my hot take on the deep state. We'll see you next time.